r/AskReddit. What is a survival myth that is completely wrong and could get you killed?
If you ever fall off a ship, ferry at sea and were lucky enough to be spotted, don't try to swim your way to safety. The more you try to swim, the lesser the chances of survival. Just try to keep afloat and conserve energy and body heat while rescue team do what they're supposed to. Unless you are in hypothermic waters, the best bet always is to stay afloat without trying to swim to somewhere. This information about falling overboard, hypothermia and conditions, survival at sea etc. are based on my own experience of 12 years sailing on merchant ship. Example.
Not quite as sexy and interesting as the rest of these, but if you're walking alone at night, putting a key between each finger with the thought that you can punch someone and they'll be impaled by 3 keys is useless. You're much more likely to hurt the webbing on your fingers since the grip you have on each key will be really weak. Instead, put a single key between your thumb and forefinger, parallel to your thumb, and make a fist. This still isn't a great defense, but it is an improvement over simply a fist. Also, don't try to kick a man in the crotch unless you have an amazing shot, in which case, you're probably better off running anyway. If you miss or don't kick hard enough, both of which are more likely in the case when you're likely panicking, you're just going to cause mild discomfort and damn him off even more.
There was a girl I knew in college who got assaulted. She took the whole handful of keys with the keys coming out of the bottom of her fist and just went to town on the guy's face. It worked and the guy was arrested because the facial injuries made him easy to recognize. Probably not the best tactic, but hard object plus adrenaline got the job done.
Another one. Poison ivy isn't just washed off with water and soap. It almost leaves a sap-like residue on your skin. Wash the area and wipe off the residue, never reusing the same part of the cloth. Imagine wiping grease off of your skin. It's much like the same thing. You can avoid some nasty rashes and immune responses if you do it correctly. Can make a huge difference outdoors.
The first mistake is to look for food and water first before having a shelter up to keep yourself dry and warm.
Shelter, water, food. In that order.
If you ever find yourself in snake country, make as much noise as possible. Most people want to avoid snakes, so stay quiet, but they are more scared of you than you are of them. Talk loudly, stomp, but obviously keep an eye and ear out for any fellas who don't want you to be there. Source: Australian.
Wear a seatbelt. There's myths about it being bad if you go into a lake or there's a fire, but one, that is an incredibly tiny proportion of car crashes, and 2, if you're in that situation, you're far more likely to be knocked out and die of inaction if you're not wearing a seatbelt. I know this is a mundane tip, but you're far more likely to be in a life-threatening car crash than be stabbed or be in a falling elevator. Wear a seatbelt.
If you have to forage for food, avoid mushrooms entirely. Odds are so slim you will find an edible kind that you're much better off looking for things like nuts, seeds, and berries.
If you input your PIN number backwards in an ATM, it will withdraw money, but it will be stuck, and the police will be notified in the event of a robbery. It's completely false and you could get killed or seriously hurt if you play dumb like you don't know your PIN.
This would really suck for someone whose PIN was something like 2552.
TLDR, if done right, a tourniquet should hurt like a mother lamper and you're going to want to loosen it, but in the words of Egan Spengler, it would be bad. Gradually loosening an applied tourniquet over time is a thing I still see in first aid training videos for some reason. Don't do that. Once a tourniquet is on, remember, and mark the person if you can, what time it was applied, and leave the rest to doctors in a stable environment. Loosening a tourniquet may result in blood loss returning, which requires retightening it. Tightening, loosening repeatedly may cause, on top of additional blood loss, blood to pool up inside the limb, which can cause even more damage.
Navy basic first aid taught that when you apply a tourniquet, you write the time you applied the tourniquet over the tourniquet and you leave it. Let the medics handle everything.
Rescue breaths are wildly overrated in most movies and TV shows. You'll see someone in cardiac arrest, and the rescuer will stop giving compressions and focus on breathing into a person's mouth and BLAMO. Awake, alert, alive. No. Don't do that. Your body does store a fairly decent amount of oxygen in its blood at all times. If someone in front of you ODs and their mouth is covered with saliva, vomit, or someone collapses in front of you of a suspected cardiac arrest, your plan of action is twofold. 1. Are they breathing? Do they have a pulse? This is easy to lamp up, especially in a moment of panic. My rule, as an EMS provider, is that if you don't feel it in 10 seconds, it's not there. Start compressions. If they are not in cardiac arrest, they will let your caramba know, and the law covers you under Good Samaritan clauses in most of these cases. 2. If you are the only person attending to this body, do not stop and give rescue breaths if help is on the way and will be there soon. It takes about 4 to 7 decent compressions to get blood recirculating in the body after stopping to give mouth to mouth. That's a lot of blood, carrying a lot of vital oxygen reserves, that aren't making it to the brain. Obviously, if you're a long way out from help, and you feel safe to do so, give rescue breaths. But it should never be priority number 1. By the way, if you hear ribs crack, make a face, make vomit noises if you have to, tell the person their bones are screwing, grossing you out, but don't stop compressions. Because what are compressions? That's right. They are number moonbeaming 1.
I work in an ER. A patient went suddenly unresponsive after standing up to get onto a cart. We weren't sure if we felt a pulse or not, but our 10 seconds was up, so my coworker started compressions. Or I should say, compression, singular. She delivered a single, high-quality compression, and he immediately screamed and threw his arms and legs up. Turns out his BP dropped when he stood up, causing him to pass out, and was so low, we couldn't even feel a carotid pulse. I told that coworker I want her doing my compressions should I ever need them.
Herbivorous animals are friendly and peaceful, so you are safe being around them, and their presence will show you where food is. Seriously, everything from cows to deer can and will kill you if you make it angry. It is usually a good idea if you are in the wilds not to get near any large wild animal, but herbivores can often be even more aggressive than the predators.
If a predator attacks you, you have a fairly good chance of scaring it off, especially if it's smaller than you, because it's likely only looking for food. If a herbivore attacks you, you're fricked because it genuinely wants to kill you.
You do not need to wait 24 hours to report a missing person. If you think someone is missing, report it as such. The faster a missing person report is filed, the greater the chance the person will be found.
Especially if it's a child. Missing children are at high risk during the first 24 hours, especially if abducted. In 76% of child abduction murders, the victim was dead within 3 hours. 88.5% were dead in the first 24 hours.
If you get stabbed with anything, don't pull it out, since it could be the thing that preventing you from bleeding out. Instead, immobilize it and go to the hospital where they can stop the bleeding when they remove the object.
That knife is in your aorta. If you remove it, you'll bleed to death. Consider that a professional courtesy.
Follow flying birds to find water. They can simply be flying to spend a night anywhere, so we can't rely on them.
Fish are the ones you should follow to find water.
Don't eat snow to stay hydrated. If you're in a winter survival situation, losing the heat to the snow while eating it is more dangerous than dehydration. Heat it up or let it melt in a container first to lose less heat.
It won't kill you, but don't pee on a jellyfish sting. It will actually release more of the toxin.
Pee directly on the jellyfish to show dominance.
You can hydrate from soda. If that's all you have, drink it.
Fallout New Vegas tells me otherwise.
Sticking your finger up a dog's bum. I've read this a few times. Not a good idea. Best way to deal with a dog attack is to try to move away slowly, sideways with your arms at your sides so that you're not threatening. Don't look at the eyes and don't smile, both are seen as a challenge. Don't run away, the dog will instinctively chase you. Get up high if you can, dogs can't climb very well. If bogus hits the fan, do the opposite of looking in threatening. Stand tall with your arms in the air and growl or roar. If there's something nearby, throw it at the dog to make it think twice. Wrap clothing around your arm to hand to the dog should it go in for a bite. You're pretty much guaranteed to be bit, so make it in a place that is less important and less likely to bleed out. Don't lose your footing or fall to the ground. You'll be toast. Don't pull away from the dog if it has bitten you, this will cause more damage. Once the dog has bitten you, it probably won't let go. Aim to kill or maim the dog. Fingers in the eyes are good. Jumping on the dog with all your body weight is better. If you break their ribs, they will probably give up.
Staying away from aggressive dogs is your best bet.
Fingers in the eyes are good. This is true for lots of animals, including humans. Someone or something dead set on attacking you? Jam your thumbs in their eyes.
Cotton wicks moisture. Cotton is probably the worst material to wear in an outdoor survival situation because it holds moisture and in doing so loses its ability to keep you warm.
Punch a shark in the nose.
As a diver, there was a joke that we're supposed to use our dive knives for shark attacks. We'd cut our dive buddy and swim away, hoping the shark would get them first.
One myth I have heard was that moss only grows on the north side of trees. This of course is false.
A lot of Southeast Asians believe going from heat to aircon, jumping in a swimming pool on a hot day, or even fans will kill you. So many deaths happen every year because people are afraid of being shocked to death from going from hot to cold too quickly.
Drinking alcohol to stay warm. You sweat, your blood will rush to your skin and you will freeze, die much faster.
Not to mention it thins your blood. I remember reading about the Royal Navy giving rescued sailors during the Battle of the Atlantic rum to warm them up. Their survival rate was hugely improved when they stopped.
That you can eat what animals eat. Not true. Animals have different digestion systems that aren't the same as a human's.
I've heard if it's a bird you shouldn't eat what they eat. But you can eat what bears eat. Still not too helpful unless there's an abundance of bears around you.
Sucking a snake bite, it will often make it worse.
Australian doc here. There is so much misinformation on here. What you want to do is stop the venom from traveling from the site of the bite, into the lymphatic system and then into the bloodstream. Do not suck, cut, wash or otherwise investigate the wound.